In this video, we will see how we can take photos like this, and this, with zero editing, all at a budget of under $1,000, cheaper than most of the flagship smartphones today. So if you love photography and are thinking about a phone upgrade because of the camera, this is the video for you. The photos you're seeing are all taken with some of the best smartphones on the market. And even though a smartphone takes great photos, they all require a certain degree of editing. But you might feel something is missing. You feel the software algorithms and AI taking over. And that's when taking photos goes from capturing moments with intention to a simple screen tap of convenience. This video isn't about the top secrets of photography. It is about how taking photos should be intentional, and about finding the joy in picking up a camera. And throughout this video, I will showcase some of the videos that I took using the camera that I'm about to recommend. So for that, let's set a budget of $1,000. This amount is comparable to, or in some cases even cheaper than what you might spend on the newest flagship camera phones. Even though a camera is more bulky in most cases, it holds the larger sensor, the larger lens, and also the physical dials that lets you react faster. An analogy that I use is that it is like trading a multi-tool for a chef's knife. You gain precision and pleasure in the process. Now with our budget, I've chosen the APS-C crop sensor cameras. They strike a perfect balance between being significantly more affordable and lighter than full-frame models, while still offer the versatility of interchangeable lenses. And these cameras provide a massive leap in quality compared to smartphones. They have a sensor size that is over 5 times larger than those that you see in your flagship iPhones and Samsungs. One of the core advantages of using a dedicated camera, I think, is that you intentionally enter a flow state. It encourages you to disengage from constant barrage of social media, texts, and messages, and instead you can focus on the light and your surroundings. And while a phone aims to freeze time, a camera empowers you to control it. And as I was doing my research, I realized there's also something that I hate, and that is excessive post-editing. I wanted a camera that could create a beautiful image right out of the box. So I started researching a brand famous for that very purpose. And the brand is Fuji. And as I was looking at Fuji, and like everyone else, I was hooked to the X106. But it was so popular and it was sold out everywhere. And also it was outside of my budget. So after waiting for another few months, Fuji launched the perfect alternative, the X-M5. This little camera here is even more compact and has interchangeable lenses, shoots 6K videos, and has all of Fuji's greatest presets. These built-in film simulations are all very powerful. You can apply them and your photos will look incredible right out of the camera. My favorites are the classic chrome and classic negative. Frankly, I'm just not a fan of software-modified sharpening and AI processing. To my eye, the photos coming out of the phones today are just too sharp. They look brittle and a little bit fake. I think photos should breathe that blur, those particles, the slight softness. They are not mistakes. They are the mood, the motion, the atmosphere that proves you were there and that it was real. And this camera does not have a viewfinder, which I think further allowed it to save space and become more compact. But 10 out of 10 reviews out there on the internet will tell you that this camera needs a viewfinder, this is not that good. I think that is not our case, because if you are like me, and if you are someone that is very used to taking photos with phones on the screen, you will not even think that you want or need a viewfinder when you use this camera. And if you're a beginner and are just starting things up, you can simplify camera settings by focusing on the aperture priority mode. While the auto mode is available and may sound interesting, but my recommendation is to just start and stay in aperture mode. Modern day cameras are all highly capable, and you will function better when you only focus on one thing, and that one thing is aperture. So you just have to decide if you want to achieve a blurred background that isolates your subject. And with that, you lower your aperture. And for photos where you want more things in focus, like group photos, you just increase your aperture. And to truly test this camera, I took it to my favorite country, Japan. I visited Matsumoto, home to one of the most stunning original castles. Now we'll talk more about Matsumoto and the castle later, because right now we have a problem. And since the X-M5 has an interchangeable lens, and I spent $850 just on this camera body, meaning that's 85% of my total budget, I have $150 left. Does that mean I will have to make a do with the shitty lens at such a low price? No, because there's this one company that has been making waves in the camera market in the recent years with their affordable yet high quality lenses. And the company is called detracts. And I picked up this detracts Air 35mm f1.7 lens for $110 as my primary lens. This little thing here is very lightweight at only 100 plus grams, and it takes amazing photos. But we still have around $40 left. So what can we do with $40? I actually picked up two more lenses. First, I picked up another 35mm lens, this manual focus lens at f1.6. It doesn't even have a brand. This thing costed $13. It actually looks pretty amazing on the camera, they match really well, and it takes decent images. And finally, this plastic thing here. Hear this. Believe it or not, this is a lens, and it costs $5. It's blurry as hell, and focusing using this is a pretty big challenge. And at $5, it even came with filters that you can use to customize the lens flare. So it takes pretty cool photos like these. I never thought I'd have so much fun with $5. Alright, now we have all the gear we need. Let's take the camera for a spin. When we talk about Matsumoto, the first place that comes to your mind should be the Matsumoto Castle. And this castle was built in 1504, and it is also known as the Crow Castle due to its striking black exterior. It is one of Japan's most historically significant castles, and one of the 12 original castles that is still available in Japan. I highly recommend visiting the castle both during the day to explore its interior and at night, as the illuminated castle reflecting on the lake creates an unbeatable view. I was also lucky during my visit to observe locals dancing to music. Now returning in the day, as I was entering the castle, I saw the coolest ninja. I want to be that cool. And once inside, you will find that the interior has no furnishing. This highlights the castle's original purpose as a military fortress. The whole experience provides a tangible sense of history, allowing you to walk through the same corridor and climb the same stairs that samurai warriors did centuries ago. Next, I took a 45-minute train ride to Narai-Juku. A beautifully preserved post town located in the Kiso Valley, along the Nakasendo Highway. It was a major resting spot for travelers back in the day. Today, the town maintains its original Edo-era character. The main street is about 1 kilometer. And many of the buildings have been converted to cafes and souvenir shops. At the southern end lies the Shizume Shrine. It is a Shinto shrine. Now please do not mix up Shinto shrines with Buddhism temples, as in Japan there are two distinct religions. If you see torii gates, a purification stand to wash your hands, or guardian lion, dog, or fox statues, then you are at a Shinto shrine. Now with that out of the way, the Shizume shrine is used to worship the local guardian deity that look after Narai-Juku. Though it is a pretty small shrine, it is very, very peaceful, and it was very soothing just looking at the wind blowing the shimenawas. Shimenawas are zigzag paper strips used to mark a sacred area. So, should you treat your phone for this camera? If you value ultimate convenience and instant sharing above all else, then your phone is most likely still the champion. But if you are a hobbyist, a creator, or just someone who wants to take timeless photos, this camera gives you a connection to the art of photography that your phone today. So what is your ideal camera setup? Have you thought of picking up a camera? Or are you primarily a phone person? Let me know in the comments below. Now, my original intention was to provide a detailed review of the Xiaomi 15T Pro. However, after extensively testing it for over a few months, I found it lacking any truly unique features. I have a short 6-minute video about it if you're interested. I have come to realize that I enjoy travel photography using actual cameras. I tried to review the Nothing Phone 3. Embargo. The Nothing Phone 3 and the Xiaomi 15T Pro, and I actually had a horrible time. You can see that I did not enjoy making those videos. I will definitely still review the Xiaomi 17 Ultra or Pro Max whenever they launch outside of China, but before that, I want to be able to create different kinds of videos. And this video is a starting point, so please let me know what you think. This video really took me weeks to prepare, so if you like this content, please let me know in the comments and give this video a like. And lastly, if you're interested in what are the best smartphones today for photography, check out this videos on the screen. I'll see you soon.